All right, Saturday morning impromptu, kind of a little bit late. Krug show. Hope everybody's having a great one. Welcome to Saturday, March the 7th. It's Kev's birthday. Happy birthday, Kev. All right, we're off and running on Saturday on the Krug Show. Hope everybody's having a good one. We're a little laggy right now. I hope everybody's doing well. Welcome. It is Saturday, March the 7th, 2026. 24 years ago today, Kev came to us, and we were thrilled to have him then. We're thrilled to have him now. So happy birthday, Kev. Happy birthday to my oldest son, and he's enjoying a nice little day on the bay with his girl and his friends today. Happy 24th to the great Kevin Kruger. So, and I do say the great because he's really done a lot of great things in a short amount of time, and we're really, really proud of him. So we are off and running on a Saturday. We're going to talk a lot of Niners. People are piling into the room. It's a beautiful day, by the way. I'm about ready to take off and get on the bike and maybe bike a couple miles and enjoy some of this outstanding Northern California weather. Is Northern California the greatest place to live? I don't know. I mean, I'm not gonna say it is or isn't. I enjoy being here. It's expensive to live here, that's for sure. But in the month of March, man, we get weather here that is just absolutely spectacular. I can't even tell you. I mean, you're talking about 75 degrees and sunny, beautiful, not a cloud in the sky. You throw on some shorts and a T-shirt, take the dog for a walk, go on a bike ride, go jogging, whatever you're going to do. Kev's on a boat on the bay, a booze cruise on his birthday. So, I mean, it's an amazing part of the world to be in March. We have great March weather. It's hit or miss, kind of like February. But, if you were out here for the Super Bowl, you saw hit, right? It was a beautiful week in February. All right. Is next week going to be a beautiful week for the Niners? That's what we care about. And let's share the screen right off the shoot, because last night I'm sitting there on the couch and all of a sudden I hit my phone and this little tweet pops up from this guy. And then today, my man Raj at RSF 49ers is retweeting Josh Taylor. He says, Romeo Doubs to the 49ers is one of the worst kept secrets in free agency right now. I'd be stunned if he doesn't go there. So that, of course, got me excited. And as it should, because Romeo Doubs to the Niners, I think is exactly what I want to see, in free agency. Now, there was talk that they're after both Alec Pierce and Romeo Doubs. I can't imagine they would have the bandwidth or salary cap room to sign both. The reality is they need both and then some. I mean, the 49er wide receiver core is a mess, and the 49er linebacking core is totally barren. So, I mean, they could literally draft nothing but linebackers and receivers, all day, every day, and all 3 days of the draft, and probably still not have enough linebackers and receivers. That's how thin they are at those spots with guys that can play. But this is kind of an interesting one. Romeo Doubs. Romeo Doubs played his college ball at Nevada, and, I really liked him in the draft coming out. This guy, what is his 40 time? Fast enough. That's what I would say more than anything. He's fast enough. He's fast enough to get separation. He's really good on the sidelines. He's really good as a continuity piece. The 49ers need somebody to replace Jawan Jennings. Somebody's got to run the end breaker, right? You got Brock Purdy. You maybe don't have Jennings. You don't have Ayuk. You may or may not have Debo. Hopefully not. But it sounds like he is coming back. If I had to bet, I would say you are going to have Debo. So, you got Debo to run the gadget routes and the stuff around the line of scrimmage and to run the ball a little bit. And then you've got, this guy to be your chain mover. This essentially, in my opinion, means JJ's gone. Now, I'm sure the Niners probably are like, no, not necessarily. If JJ wants to come back, because Shanahan loves him and Lynch loves him, but realistically, if he's coming back, he would have to come back for a lower price. I would rather pay more. I'd pay more for Romeo Doubs than I would for Juwan Jennings. I just think he's better. I think he's faster. I think he can do everything that JJ can do. Now, Jennings is uniquely tough, and he's a true warrior. And JJ's going to show up with the money on the table. And, so there's some things about Jennings that are really, really top shelf. And that's why I'd want him back anyway, even though to have him and Doubs, you probably could use a little bit more speed and dynamicism. Dynamicism? Is that a word? Dynamicism? I can't even say it. You need more dynamic playmakers at receiver. God, can't even speak. You'd think I'd be able to speak. I'm not, I haven't been drinking. I'm 55. I've been to college. I was a communications major, and I can't even speak. All right, so there you go. But Romeo Doubs to the Niners, if that's going to happen, I think it's a great move. Now, he's not going to wear 87. Sorry, Romeo. There's this DC guy that wore 87. We're not giving you 87. But besides that, welcome to the team. And I think he's going to be a really, really good Niner. I love this addition. If this is indeed true and Romeo Doubs is coming to the Niners, I love it. Now, here's the thing. What's the price tag? The estimate on Spot Track was like $12 million. And I always felt like that was a little low considering Jennings, supposedly market was closer to 15 to 20. Well, if Jennings is worth 15 to 20, why is Doubs worth 12? I never quite got that. But that made no sense to me. But I don't think that's what he's going to go for. I think the 12 is like, that's like a pipe dream. Then you introduce the fact that supply and demand, and there's multiple bidders and so on and so forth. And I think it's going to be, closer to 14, 15. But even there, you're the 49ers. You got to have a receiver, and you got to have somebody who runs the intermediate inbreaker, because that's Brock Purdy's bread and butter. And Doubs, I think in this offense, I think he was targeted 80 plus times last year and caught 50 some odd balls. I think you could target him 90 to 100 times this year. I mean, I think Romeo Doubs might be a really good fantasy receiver. I know that's crazy because Shanahan rarely has good fantasy players because he rotates everybody, and there's so many different guys and everybody gets touches. It's hard to predict. But I think the Niners were looking for a volume receiver. And it's funny because I heard some people say they'd rather have Mike Evans. Oh, I wouldn't. Romeo Doubs is an ascending player whose best football is coming right now. Mike Evans has already played his best football. Mike Evans is a really good player. I'd like to have Mike Evans. Don't get me wrong. He's a future Hall of Famer. He's really, really good. But he's older. He's an older player. And the separation's not going to be great. And the catch radius is not getting bigger. It's getting smaller. The separation that he does get today, he's getting less separation tomorrow. He's in the decline. I mean, no question about it. Now he's really good, and the Niners need another receiver, but I kind of feel like the other receiver they need is the big play guy. So let's take a look at the 49ers. We'll move that off the screen for just a sec. And what we'll do is we'll show you the Niner depth chart. We'll take a look at it. Not that we don't know it at this point, but we'll do it anyway. Where's the button? There we go. Hey, welcome to YouTube. All right, here we go. Here is the 49er. I thought I had the Niner depth chart up here somewhere. Oh, there it is. Okay. So here it is. Here's the Niner depth chart. And we'll click this pop-up out of the way. Click this pop-up out of the way. A lot of pop-ups. So this is the Niner depth chart right now, wide receiver. So they have Pearsall. Jennings is the guys in green are free agents. So Trent Taylor, who's going to retire, right? He's going to retire. Sky Moore, Kendrick Bourne, JJ. Those are your free agents. That's why they're in green. So the only receivers you have or the 49ers have right now on the roster are Ricky Pearsall, Demarcus Robinson, Jordan Watkins, and Jacob Cowing. That's it. That's a wrap. Everybody else, is a free agent and big question mark. So, I mean, you have 4 wide receivers under contract. That means you're probably going to go to camp with a dozen. That means you're going to bring in 8 wide receivers between now and training camp. And are you bringing back any of those guys? I don't think you're bringing back Jennings. I don't think you're bringing back Bourne, because I told you I'm on record as saying that I believe Lynch has already told us that they're going for Debo. So Debo is going to be the slow guy. So just assume that you have Debo, Pearsall, Demarcus Robinson, Jordan Watkins, and Jacob Cowing could be the vertical threats if they can get on the field. And then so you got Ricky, Demarcus, Watkins, Cowing, and now Doubs. So those are 5. Those could be your 5 receivers right there. Now you need more than that, obviously, because you can't even depend that Cowing is going to be on the team, or Watkins is going to be on the team, or that Pearsall is going to be healthy, or you just can't. You can't really. These are not like rock solid guys that are like, oh yeah, he caught 40 balls for us last year and 6 touchdowns. No, these guys didn't do anything. Watkins had 2 catches. Cowing didn't play at all. Pearsall is hurt often. So so this is the beginning. Romeo Doubs. So I like it a lot. I really do. Now, what's the complementary piece? Do you go for another, bigger receiver? Do you go for a more dynamic vertical threat because you don't know if Watkins and Cowing, can do it? That's kind of the question. Is like, what's left to be done at wide receiver? And do they go after, Alec Pierce and try to spend even more money at wide receiver? Or do they say, no, okay, Doubs is our free agent wide receiver? My guess is that Doubs is the answer. That's their wide receiver. And now they'll go into the draft and maybe go get a second wide receiver. Now, I looked at it recently and I thought, okay, the Niners need 2 receivers. They need that vertical threat. They need that chain mover. Who could be the chain mover? And in the draft, I kind of like Josh Cameron from Baylor, who's big and physical. Only a 1-year player for the most part, though, at Baylor. So that always makes kind of a question mark. Like, was this a 1-year wonder, or did he really develop this last year there for Baylor? The other guy I love is Dylan Bell from Georgia, who I think he had a really good combine. He ran 4.50 for the 40, which is fast enough, but he's a converted running back, got a lot of Debo type traits, strong, big play guy, day 3 pick for sure. So those were kind of the chain movers. Now, neither of those guys is a route runner like Romeo Doubs. See, that's the one thing about Doubs. Doubs is a true route runner, and he's got ball skills. He kind of reminds me, for you old school Niner fans, of Mike Wilson. He's really good at the out route. He's really good at the sideline toe tap, get the toes in and catch it and get knocked out of bounds. I mean, he's really good along the sidelines. And I think he's really good on what we would, all the cut routes, the 15 to 18 yard ins and outs. I think that's where Romeo Doubs in that intermediate range, he's going to feast. And with a quarterback like Purdy, I think he could be a high volume receiver. So that's so I think Doubs takes care of the chain mover, the continuity piece, the guy that keeps your offense on the field. 3rd and 6, you got to get a 7-yard reception. He runs a little in-breaker, Purdy hits him, boom, boom, first down, you stay on the field. Continuity piece. That's what Doubs, I think, offers this offense potentially. So what else do they need? I think they need that burner. They need a vertical, take the top off. We're not leaning forward because we're worried about this guy. Now, do you trade for Jordan Addison? He could be that guy. Do you trade for a Brian Thomas Jr.? He could be that guy. In the draft, there's all kinds of vertical threats. Let's take a quick gander at Draft Tech's wide receiver board. And I'll share the screen on this, and we'll take a look at the wide receiver class, now that we kind of have a pretty good idea, since the Indy is in the rear view, of how these guys shake out. Okay, so this is Draft Tech's website, and the number here is where they're ranked as in the position, and the number here is where they're ranked overall in the draft. So obviously there's 32 picks in the first round, so they are projecting five receivers to go in round one. Carnell Tate, who did not run a good 40, but he's a tremendous receiver. Strength, polish, ready to roll. Really love Carnell Tate. Tremendous player. Mekhi Lemon did not run a good 40, and he's small. So he's kind of the wild card. And there may be all kinds of Mekhi Lemon worked out before the draft, and now his 40's X, kind of reports coming out, because he didn't run well. He's not big. He's not going to get bigger by the draft, but he may get faster. He's an awesome talent. I watched this kid at SC, and I thought, wow, this guy's dynamic. He's a big play maker. But I don't think there's been a wide receiver that was 5'10" that ran, north of 4.5 going the first round in a long time. It's been a long time. So maybe ever. Actually, I have to look that up, but I don't. It's so either he's going to test faster or he may slip. And that will be an interesting one. He could be the wild card on draft night. Do you take Mekhi Lemon if he can improve on his 40 time and he falls to 27? That might be the wide receiver kind of wild card to watch for on draft night, because Lemon's film says he's top half of the first round, but his measurables say that he's second or third round. So do you take him at 27? Do you look the gift horse in the mouth and say, hey, you know what? Mekhi Lemon fell to us. Gift. Winner. That's why you have scouts. That's why you have workouts. That's why you have meetings. He didn't have good combine interviews. Supposedly he came off really poorly. I'm not sure why. I wasn't in the room. But that's something to take note of. So you got a guy who had great film, but he was lousy in the interviews and didn't test well at the combine. Do you take him at 27? That's the wild card at the receiver position. Now, Jordan Tyson, he'll be gone. Denzel Boston, I think he'll be gone. Kevin Concepcion from A&M, who has the speech impediment, but what a burner he is. He's projected to go 30, so he should be there for the Niners, but he's also projected in round one. Then you've got this next group of guys. And to me, these next four guys, I think, are the guys that the Niners would like to have. And that's Zachariah Branch from Georgia, who's 5'9", 177 pounds. And yet, with 225, this guy put up 20 reps. And that tells me something. It tells me that this kid works. You're not 5'9", or 5'8", 5'9", 177 pounds and put up 225 20 times on the bench unless you get in the weight room and do the work. There ain't no shortcuts. Not on the bench. There's some shortcuts on some of these other drills. There is no shortcut for the bench. He's doing the work. He's lifting every day. And that tells me he's all in. And this kid is absolutely awesome as an explosive playmaker. So, yes, he's 5'9", 177. But, man, if he's there in the second round, that would be a hard guy to pass. Omar Cooper. Matt Mayoko mocked Omar Cooper from Indiana to the Niners in the first round. 6 feet, 199 pounds. Somebody made a great comparison the other day. Omar Cooper is literally the combination is if you had a child that came out of Jennings, Ayuk, and Debo. Those three guys, say whatever. We mix those three guys together. Their offspring would be Omar Cooper. It's a little creepy. But it's a little creepy, but it's true. And Omar Cooper is the truth. This guy's tough. These Indiana kids are just absolutely awesome across the board. I mean, I love them all. I mean, I haven't seen too many years where I'm like, wow, every one of these prospects from this one school is just really good. Now I see why these guys won the national championship. I mean, every one of their prospects is like the truth, really proven, really great prospects with phenomenal traits. All of them. Kalon Black, awesome. Omar Cooper, awesome. Coogan, the center, awesome. Mikhail Kamara, the edge rusher, who's only 6 feet tall, phenomenal. So I mean, they're just Indiana. The Indiana guys are worth watching. So you got Zachariah in this next group. You had Zachariah Branch, Omar Cooper, Chris Bell, whom Tony Pauline says the Niners have interest in taking in round 1, and Jeremy Bernard from Alabama. If you want to throw Chris Brazzell from Tennessee, a lot of people like him as well. He's 6'5", a big, tall receiver from Tennessee. Some people like Jacoby Lane from SC, who looked really incredible in the gauntlet drill. I mean, he ran that gauntlet drill like it was meant to be run. I mean, the guy was absolutely on the line, caught everything perfectly. Boop, 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 boop. I mean, it was amazing. Jacoby Lane in that gauntlet looked phenomenal. He's 6'4" with great ball skills. So, I mean, he's in that next group. So this is a really good year for receivers. But the Niners got themselves one, if the reports are true, in Romeo Doubs. And now the question is, who's the great complement to them? Well, I think to him, I would say it's a burner. So maybe that would take Omar Cooper off the table, but Cooper is such a damn good receiver that, I can't take him off the list. Jeremy Bernard kind of reminds me of Anquan Bolden. He's just really, really good and smooth and tough. And Jeremy Bernard from Bama makes a lot of big plays. Chris Bell from Louisville is coming off an ACL, which that probably drives his stock down. He's definitely going to be there at the end of the first round. I wouldn't take him in the first round, not with the ACL, but I would take him in round 2. And if I could trade Mac Jones and have an additional round 2 pick, I'd be looking for him in round 2. He is another guy who's going to be really good on those in-breakers. 6'2", 225, powerful, runs through arm tackles, run after the catch ability for days. So really like Chris Bell's run after the catch. Really like Jeremy Bernard's just ability to make plays on all 3 levels. Really like Omar Cooper's just toughness. He will block you. He will catch it in a crowd. He's got strong hands. He's dependable. My only concern with Omar Cooper is just kind of a little bit low end. Like, is he really going to get big-time separation? Is he going to – the NFL in 2026, I think the Seahawks showed it this year. Where were the Seahawks the best? Where were they head and shoulders better than everybody? Explosives. Explosive ratio. That's what they did this year better than everybody. You didn't get explosive plays on their defense. They did get explosive plays on special teams and on offense. At the end of the game, they had more explosives than you always, usually by a wide margin. And the team this year in the NFL who wins the explosives ratio, 61% of the time came out a winner. It's an incredible percentage. You win the explosive play ratio in the NFL in 2025, you won 61% of the time. It's the biggest factor in the game. It's bigger than turnovers. The turnover winner in 2025, the team that won the turnover margin in the game, Niners play the Rams. The Rams are +3. The Niners are +2. The Rams won the turnover margin, okay? For those who are like, what's turnover margin? The team that won the turnover margin won the game this year 59% of the time. So now explosives have become a bigger factor than turnovers in the game. So it is about getting explosives on offense. And what do the 49ers have this year? The slowest collection of receivers known to man. They are so slow. And yes, it's nice to have Cowing and Watkins, but they're not on the field. It's nice to have Ricky Pierce, not on the field. You got to have some speed who's out there. So I don't know if they want to put all their eggs in the basket of those 3 guys staying healthy, or if they want to draft a Zachariah Branch. But they need some speed. Kevin Concepcion, Zachariah Branch, Ted Hurst from Georgia State, Kevin Coleman from Missouri. These guys are the burners. Jeff Caldwell from Cincinnati at 6'5", 216 pounds, ran 4.31. Barryon Brown from LSU, burner, major burner. So there's options here. And then there's a number of these guys. Deion Burks, to me, worked out as well as almost any of the receivers. When you looked at the strength and the speed and the jumping ability of Deion Burks from Oklahoma, he was amazing. Now he operates largely out of the slot. Brennan Thompson from Mississippi State, another guy, tiny, 5'9", 164 pounds is what they measured him at, but he flies. I mean, this is one of the fastest players I've seen on the football field, period, any level, any year. Brennan Thompson, Mississippi State, probably going to be a day 3 pick. He flies. Xavion Thomas from LSU, 5'10", 190 pound, another LSU receiver who absolutely flies. So big play guys. Now, you don't necessarily have to go for, these guys necessarily in round 1, maybe not even in round 2. Maybe you take a couple speedy guys that you like on day 3 of the draft. But there you go. I mean, that's the first order of business. Just taking a look at things is wide receiver. Wide receiver. It sounds like they've got Doubs. We'll see whatever they do with Pearsall. Can they get something out of Cowing? Can they get something out of Watkins? And then at that point, what does the whole thing look like? What does the Niners situation at wide receiver look like? All right, couple other things I want to get into. I tweeted out a tweet the other day about Trent Williams that got a lot of traction, and then Coach Yak kind of put it out there. And I will put it back out there, and we can discuss it for just a second. And then Lombardi put out a tweet saying if the Niners get healthy, that's the biggest thing they can do this offseason. I totally disagree with that. We'll get into that as well. The more I watch, by the way, of film, different guys, different prospects, the more I love this Toledo safety, this Emmanuel McNeil Warren. God, he is good. He's a big, rangy kid. He's just so fast. Okay, let me see. Where is okay, here we go. So somebody put out, it would be, you got to sign Trent, Trent, go sign Trent. And I put this out saying that I wouldn't sign Trent. And I know this is somewhat controversial because everybody loves Trent Williams. He's a Hall of Famer. He's a great player. So I said the smarter move for the 49ers would be to not pay the 38-year-old left tackle, Trent Williams, $50 million more, and instead save that money, spread it around your roster, trade him to the Houston Texans for Arianti Ursary and a day 3 pick. You have to be cold in pro football personnel. Don't fall in love. And then I just threw out examples. KC dumped Tyreek Hill and Trent McDuffie. Green Bay said goodbye to Devontae Adams. Seattle dumped Metcalf and Lockett. Don't fall in love with your veteran players. Respect them. But embrace the process of saying goodbye. That's basically it. When it's time to say goodbye. And I said it's time to say goodbye to Trent Williams, Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, Brandon Ayuk, and maybe Mac Jones, Renardo Green, and Ricky Pearsall too. Trade these vets for a bevy of draft picks and rebuild bigger and better than ever. So I think there's a lot of people that looked at this and said, yeah, I agree until you get to Bosa and Warner. And I get it. And believe me, this was not like trade them all. This is like trade these guys in addition, pick a couple of these guys that you want to move. I wasn't, I probably should have been a little bit more clear, but it's not like I'm saying literally trade away 5 guys or 7 guys. What I'm saying is be open-minded to seeing what the market bears for all of your guys and listen, pick up the phone. Somebody calls and they're offering. Now let's talk about Trent Williams. First of all, the Niners are on a deadline right now. They got to decide. He's got a $39 million cap number for this year. So what do you want to do with Trent Williams? You're not keeping him on the roster at $39 million. It's just not happening. So the do nothing and just, close your eyes and think about, pleasant thoughts. That's not an option. You're not paying him $39 million. You can't afford to pay him $39 million. Most likely on the cap. So then it's like, okay, can he restructure? Well, do you want to restructure? Is he willing to take less? No, he's not willing to take less. He's got all the leverage. He doesn't have to take less. But then if you pay him at his rate, he's worth a ton, and you're gonna have to spread that money out over the future years, and he may only have a year or two left, and you may have a gigantic post Trent Williams dead cap mountain, kind of like what you had this year, where you had over $100 million of dead cap, second or third highest dead cap in the NFL this year. Do you want to go down that road again? My guess is they don't. They don't. So then the question is, well, what do you do? Is he going to take less? No. So you don't want tons of dead cap. So your only options are to cut him or to trade him. And most guys, I would say, well, that's really only one option, because everybody knows your deal and they know, well, they got to cut this guy. We'll just wait. I mean, there's been more than a couple examples here the last few days of, hey, this player is either going to be traded or cut. And then, the player's cut, or he's soon to be cut, or he's going to be cut. So give us something. I get the sense that Rashawn Gary might be in that situation where, it came out that they're going to release him, but are they going to release him, or are they going to, threaten the release and then trade him somewhere for some nominal pick? And I kind of get the feeling that, that might be where Trent Williams thing goes, from the standpoint of he's too valuable to cut. And there's a lot of teams that would probably give you some minimal value in return. In this scenario, I threw out Ariante Ursary because he's the starting left tackle for the Texans, and a day 3 pick, meaning like a 5th round, 6th round, because I think ultimately that's what I would want. You're getting a tremendous cap savings by moving off of Trent Williams. Ursary gives you a 2nd round pick. I liked him at Minnesota. You could plug him in at left tackle right away. And then you get a day 3 draft pick to take a flyer on another player. And then now it's time to really start to rebuild your offensive line. To me, that's probably a smarter play than kowtowing to 38-year-old Trent, who's not going to get healthier. He's not going to be better. To me, I think it would be smarter now. I don't even know that this route exists. For all we know, there's nobody who wants Trent Williams, and it's literally pay him what he's due, extend him somehow and restructure, or release him. Those could be their options. There may not be a trade option available. But I think because it's Trent Williams that there will be one. And I look at Houston as a good example, just because they have C.J. Stroud and they're trying to convince themselves and their fans that C.J. Stroud, despite his horrible play in the playoffs, is not the problem. That they're trying to convince their fans that it's everything around C.J. Stroud that has to be improved. We just didn't have a good enough run game. We just didn't have a good enough offensive line. We just didn't have good enough this. We just didn't have... CJ is going to be fine. So that's what the mode that the Texans are in right now. So why not send them Trent Williams? He is, yes, if CJ Stroud's not the problem and the fact is you can't protect him, then trade for Trent Williams and plug him in at left tackle and give up a draft pick and a young offensive lineman. For the Niners perspective, it might look bad on the surface. You're trading the best left tackle in the game and one of the best left tackles of all time for just a young prospect who's flawed. He's not like he's Ariante Ursary, some superstar. He's not. And a day 3 pick, which is hardly anything awesome. That guy might not even make your team. So I understand while there would be some pushback going, God, I don't like that. But I think it is time to get cheaper, younger, faster, and I think this is probably the smart move. Now, the Niners, for whatever reason, are very warm, and they tend to fall in love with their players. They love their players. They're close to their players. Shanahan heck, goes to Cabo with a lot of these guys. And you get the feeling that there's a warmth there and a love there that goes almost beyond your random or simple head coach player relationship, that he really is invested in his players. And that's a hard thing to do when you're doing personnel, and the coaching, that your coaching lifespan should outlive your players' lifespan. So you have to be able, as a coach, to say goodbye to your players, even the ones that you love, even the ones that played great, even the ones that you respect. You got to be able to say goodbye to those guys. And that's kind of, we're at that point in the regime where they've been around for almost a decade, that it's easy. They've said goodbye to a lot of guys, but they haven't been very good guys. Now it's almost time to say goodbye to all the best players, and we'll see if they can do it. It's a difficult thing to do. There's not a lot of room for sentimentality in this sport. And, the best GMs stay ahead of the curve. Brett Veach in Kansas City is a really good GM. Did he give Trent McDuffie the monster extension? No. He traded him to the Rams. Did he give Tyreek Hill the monster extension? No. He traded him away to the Dolphins for a bunch of picks. Green Bay's got a pretty good executive there in Gutekunst. Did they sign up Devontae Adams for a big money long-term deal? Devontae and Rodgers there was no better quarterback receiver combo than that combo. They were in total lockstep with one another. There was all kinds of reasons to stay with Devontae. Instead, they said, no, we're going to go young. Kicked him to the curb. Did John Schneider sit there and go, man, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, these are the guys. We can't get rid of these guys. We got a young quarterback. Nope. They got rid of those guys. They just won the Super Bowl. What's the message? Don't fall in love. Don't fall in love. Show them tons of respect and all that, but don't fall in love. Don't fall in love with your players, because when it's time to go, it's time to go. And I think the Niners ought to at least listen on Trent Williams, on Bosa, on Fred, on Ayuk, on Demo, on everybody. They ought to listen. They ought to listen and see if anybody out there is willing to throw them a crazy offer. I could see them move Mac Jones. I could see them move Bernardo Green. I could see them move Ricky Pearsall. I could see them move Trent Williams. It's harder, and Brandon Ayuk. It's harder to see them move Bosa or Warner or Kittle or CMC or Purdy. I just don't think they're moving those guys probably. And I hear the pushback from the people who are like, oh, come on, Krug, you can't move Warner. I get it. Hey, if Warner's your sacred cow, fine. Then Warner's your sacred cow. There was a report within the last couple days that if the Niners were able to bring Dre Greenlaw back, they might be willing to trade Fred Warner. So I don't know if there's validity to that or not, but that's interesting. Nick Bosa, I think, is a tremendous player, but now we're talking about his third ACL. Nobody lasts forever in this game. Bosa right now is still viewed by many to be on top of the sport, on top of his game. A year from now, 2 years from now, most likely that's not going to be the case. So all I'm saying is, hey, sell high. If somebody's willing to give you something great. I mean, the Raiders just got 2 number ones for Max Crosby. If somebody was willing to give you some bonanza for Nick Bosa, I think you got to listen. So that was my thought. And a bunch of people push back. Oh, my God, there's the I agree with you crowd. There's the I disagree with you crowd. And then there's the, let's get into character assassinations crowd. You know what? Whatever floats your boat, man. Seriously, whatever you need to get by. If you need to rip me to feel better, go for it. I'm cool with it. I got broad shoulders. I can take it. So the other thing I want to get into is we will stop sharing the screen on that. Okay, so that was one of the things I wanted to clear up. The other one, Coach Yak today has somebody predicted Joey Bosa, and he's like, I'd be okay with this to the Niners. And I get it. I mean, Joey Bosa had a pretty good year. But once again, it's like Lynch just came out and said, hey, we want to get younger, faster, cheaper, leaner, we want to bolster our defensive line and build that thing into something great. And I don't see how Joey Bosa necessarily at his age, at his cost, the Bosas rarely take a pay cut or any kind of, haircut financially. How does Joey Bosa make the Niners younger, faster, cheaper, leaner? I just don't see that. So I don't know. I just think there's a lot of people out there, they fall in love with names. They learn a name. They know Joey Bosa. So it's like, yeah, I know Joey Bosa. I can talk about Joey Bosa. Can I talk about Caleb Proctor from Southeast Louisiana? No. But I can talk about Joey Bosa. So I'll advocate for Joey Bosa. And I get that. But I once again, leaner, younger, faster, cheaper Joey Bosa. I don't know. I don't know. Let's go with some. Let's throw out a couple of good ideas. I think the offensive line is definitely an issue, right? Whether some content creator wants to throw out this stat or that stat that shows this or that, we all saw it. The Niners had 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1. Did they run it up the middle behind Brendel? No. Why? They ran wide on the fastest defense in the league. Why? Because Shanahan didn't believe running up the middle was going to be successful. So they need help in the interior bad, and they need a future tackle for sure. So they got to get at least an offensive lineman or two out of this draft. And they're probably not going to do it in the first round. Firster's on record as saying that he believes that skill position guys mean more than the offensive lineman. The Lynch is on the record as saying that he believes they need to build up their defensive front. At what part of we need to rebuild our defensive front, and that's the priority, does that say they're going offensive line? It doesn't. So the key is they're going to have to somehow rebuild this offensive line either in free agency or outside of the first round. So there's lots of people saying, oh, go get, Monroe Freeling. Well, Monroe Freeling is going to go like 15th overall. Go get, Tyler Linderbaum. Tyler Linderbaum's going to cost you $25 million a year. I mean, it's just real easy to say, get the top shelf guy. Okay. It takes a little bit more to sit there and say, well, okay, if you had to do this after the first round, how would you go about doing it? All right. So let me give you a couple ideas of guys that I think make a lot of sense. And then you guys can tell me what you think in the chat. And we'll get to the chat too, by the way. I see you guys over there. I think I could share the screen. I've been doing this for about 4 years now. All right, here we go. Share the screen. This is Clint Goss who tweeted this out, and he's tweeting out about J.C. Davis. J.C. Davis is one of my favorite players in this draft. This is a Bay Area kid, okay? This kid went to high school in Oakland. He's from McClymonds High School, and then went the J.C. route. Went to the same college that my son Ben goes to. He went DVC, Contra Costa College. So that's where, and then he transferred to New Mexico, and then in the portal he went to Illinois, and then he's in the draft this year, and he's a really good athlete. He's versatile. He can play guard. He can play tackle. He's nasty. 6'4", 320, 34 1/4-inch arms, 10 1/8 inch hands. Natural athlete. Like if you watch this guy his walk around weight is his playing weight. I mean, he's not one of those guys that plays at 320 and his walk around weight's 285 and he's got to do all this lifting to get to 3. No, if you see him in the off season, he's 330, and if you see him in the regular season, he's 3 1/4. You know what I mean? It's like that's basically it, and that's what you're looking for because those guys tend to last. So that's the first guy, and he's not going in the first round, and he's not going in the second round, and he's probably not even going in the third round. He might go late third round, but I think this is probably a high day 3 pick. J.C. Davis, Illinois. Remember that name. Good athlete. Really, really like him quite a bit. Okay, we'll stop sharing the screen on that one. The other guy I wanted to show you, or the other idea that I think is a good idea, and that is there are some interior linemen. Cam Meller put this out. This is pretty interesting to me, and we'll see if it's interesting to you guys. So this is a list of offensive linemen that are in this draft, interior guys. And this is offensive guards who had 0 sacks allowed. And that's a good place to start because where is Brendel just getting absolutely crushed? Pass rush or pass protection. he's pretty good as a run blocker. I mean, he knows how to position his body. He doesn't blow anybody out of the hole or anything. He's not powerful. He's not explosive, but he's a better run blocker than a pass protector. But as a pass protector, man, the game is about pass protection. All right, so I'm looking at this list. There's 3 guys here that are just 3 of my favorite offensive linemen, really 3 or 4 or 5 are really some of my favorite offensive linemen in the draft. And this is a key element. I talked to Chris Furster about Connor Colby last summer. I'm like, hey, what do you like about Connor Colby? He's like, well, we love, like, kind of like Dom Pooney the year before. We love guys who we feel like can pass protect right out of the chute, because if you can pass protect, you can play right away. And I said, that's interesting. Why do you say that? And he's like, well, it's a passing league, and if you cannot pass protect and our quarterback's getting hit, we can't keep you out there. And if you're not the greatest run blocker, we could always run into a different hole, run away from you and de-emphasize you. But as a pass protector, there's no real way to de-emphasize you. You have to be able to do it. He makes a good point. So these are the guys that didn't allow sacks. Fabechi Nwawu from Oklahoma, and I'm probably butchering this name. This is the kid who's pictured here, 54 for Oklahoma. I love that old school helmet too. It's a great helmet. 481 pass blocking snaps, did not allow a single sack. This guy plays guard, but I love him more at center. And the strength of Fabechi Nwawu has got to be seen. Those hands, the forearms, the upper body, this guy is strong. This guy's 322 pounds, but when you see the way defensive linemen kind of crumble when he gets his hands on them, that's my guy right there. I love that guy. That is a tremendous center. Somehow, some way, I would find my way to this guy. Okay, so he's tremendous. Keelan Rutledge from Georgia Tech, one of my favorite players before they ever got to the combine. And then he put on a show in Indy. I mean, the movement ability. But this guy is a former wrestler. I love that background. He's a road grader. He's a great run blocker. He blocked for the great Jamal Haynes there in Atlanta this year. And Rutledge is a beast. He's one of my favorite players in the draft. To me, if I'm the Niners, the second round, if Keelan Rutledge is there, that's a plug and play left guard. Man, you take that guy, you plug him in for Spencer Burford immediately, and he'll be just absolutely fantastic. That would be my plug and play left guard, Keelan Rutledge. 421 pass blocking snaps, 0 sacks allowed. Okay. The other guy who's 2 names beneath him, who I think is the day 3 sleeper of this draft for the Niners, is Micah Morris from Georgia. Another big guard who's 330, 340 pounds. He had a 1.70 10-yard split. It was the best of any guard in the draft. This guy's lower body athleticism and movement ability are off the charts, and yet he's 340 pounds, and he looks like a bulldozer. Micah Morris. Love Micah Morris. And then if you go further down the list, there's, Ione from Penn State, who's just an absolute beast, and Bo Stevens from Iowa, who I think is a plug-and-play player at center or guard. It's a really good draft for offensive linemen. So those guys right there. I mean, Bo Stevens, Ione from Penn State. I mean, those Penn State kids going in the top 12, top 15 picks. I mean, he's awesome. He's fantastic. I think that guy's Canton. I think the Penn State offensive lineman looks like a Canton-type player. He looks like a Quentin Nelson. I mean, he's just a total dominator. So, I mean, yeah, if I could get my hands on Ione from Penn State, man, I would do it. He's just absolutely freakish. Bo Stevens Iowa runs the same system that the Niners run, and he's just another guy with a wrestling background and a bulldozer mentality, and he can play guard, he can play center. His hand usage is off the charts. His balance, he's really a tremendous player. There's some injury concerns there with Bo Stevens that have to be researched, so that would be my one concern there. But other than that, I love him. I love his film. I love everything about him. But it's those other two guys, Keelan Rutledge and Fabechi Nwewu. Man, if you could get Nwewu and put him at center and get Rutledge or Micah Morris and put him at guard, I mean, that's it right there. That's it. I mean, then you're almost home. I mean, you're basically one tackle away. And I love the kid from Notre Dame, Emil Wagner, and I love J.C. Davis. I just showed you J.C. Davis. Those are my two favorite day 3 tackles, J.C. Davis and Emil Wagner. I love them both. They're tremendous. And then these interior players that I just mentioned. That's how you rebuild your offensive line right there. With these guys. You're going to have to invest some picks in the offensive line. Just as simple as that. Okay, so that was my thought on the offensive line. The other thought that I wanted to share with you was the Lombardi tweet. Lombardi tweeted out, here it is. He said, no matter what the 49ers do in free agency, their biggest 2026 acquisition will be the return to health. And it's one they must generally retain throughout the season. Many will lose sight of this. I'm always getting an education. Have you noticed that? We're always getting educated here. But it's the fundamental truth behind San Francisco's situation and offseason strategy. Players better than Fred Warner and Nick Bosa aren't available on the market. Yeah, they are. They're not available on the free agent market. They're available on the draft market. You're telling me that there's nobody available that this year that's going to have a brighter future than the futures of Fred Warner and Nick Bosa? Fred Warner at 28 or 29 and Nick Bosa at 28. I agree with Dave generally as far as free agency, but I totally disagree with this notion that the Niners just need to get healthy. I was in Seattle. I saw with my own two eyes the domination. That game was not going to be a Niner victory if Bosa and Warner had been healthy. And if you think that it was, I don't know what to say for you. That's not the issue. They got destroyed by the Rams at the end of the year. They got destroyed by Seattle. Now, I know they didn't have these players, but the team that the Niners beat up in week 1 was a team that had a first-year or second-year head coach and a first-year quarterback. They were just kind of figuring it out. They weren't even they were just trying to figure out, how do we got this Nick Emanwari guy. How does he fit into our defense? I mean, he got hurt like 3 plays into that game. That wasn't Seattle at full tilt. And Seattle's a young, ascending football team. The 49ers are an old team with one of the oldest rosters in pro football. So can we just, instead of in this unbelievable desire to always kind of make the Niners happy, I get it. The Niners would love to think of themselves as the big, bad bullies on the block, that if they just get healthy, they're back on top, baby. That's delusional bullcrap. That's not true and based in anything in reality based. That's pie in the sky stuff. That's not true at all. The Niners have 13 needs. 13 needs. Their defensive line produced 20 sacks, 6 fewer than the next shittiest sack team. They were the shittiest sack team in the game. Their linebacking core, which used to be on the cutting edge with speed and talent, is a ghost town of nothingness. Their secondary's got some decent young players, but that's it. There's no superstar there. There's no Ronnie Lott there. There's no Eric Wright there. There's no mega star on the verge of badass accomplishments on the back seven that I can see, unless Nick Martin somehow comes of age, and I guess it's possible. I see solid players in the secondary. I don't see stars. So let's stop deluding ourselves into they could just get Mikal and Fred and Nick. No. They have 13 needs. They need a pass rushing tackle. They need a defensive end. They need 2 stack linebackers. They need a big-time safety who can cover. They need a number 1 corner. They need a tight end who can block and catch. They need 2 wide receivers, one who could be a chain mover, one who could be a vertical threat. They need another running back. They need a backup quarterback. And they need 2 offensive linemen. It's 13 needs. 13 needs are not going to be met, or not going to be, those needs aren't going away because Mikel, Fred, and Nick get healthy. So I don't even know what to say about that, other than it sounds like either Dave has a higher view of this talent than I do, or he just is trying to pat those guys in the back. I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. But their biggest acquisition, if the Niners' biggest acquisition this offseason is not who they drafted or who they signed, but that Fred and Nick and Mikel are now healthy, they're screwed. I mean, they are screwed big time. They need players. They need real talent. I mean, think about it. Name the 10 best Seahawks and look at their ages. Name the 10 best Rams and look at their ages. Look at the 10 best Niners and look at their ages. Do that little exercise. Come back and tell me how it goes. The only really good 49ers that are young right now would be, Mikel's got some talent. There's no question. Purdy, Upton Stout. Those are the guys that stand out. There's like 3 or 4. Seattle and LA have like 10. You can't beat those teams with 3 or 4 really good young players. You need 10. That's why if there was anybody who the most honest, real, informed opinion that I've heard on the Niners since the end of the year was Steve Young. And why should that surprise us? Steve Young's super, super bright. He's not a stooge. He's too prideful to try to suck up to the franchise for the sake of popularity. He doesn't need it. So he came out and he said it. He said 49ers need to go into the draft and get 6 or 7 really good, young, difference-making players, foundation players. He's totally right. He's 100% right. Steve. Nobody is more right than Steve on that. That's exactly what they need. Do they need Max Crosby? No. There's a lot of talk they may go after Trey Hendrickson. That's another name that's going to be really interesting. If there's a trade involved here with Trey Hendrickson, you would think that the cost in draft pick compensation is going to be really low, because it's going to be like, hey, we're going to cut this guy, but instead give us this, and we won't. So I'm eager to see if Trey Hendrickson gets cut, or if he gets dealt for a pick that is far beneath his actual value. And we've seen it before. Heck, the Niners traded in the Harbaugh era for Anquan Bolden, who at that point was a Super Bowl hero or at that point was not a Super Bowl hero. At that point was a proven veteran wide receiver on a really good Ravens team. And they said goodbye to him after the Super Bowl. He was a proven. That's right. He was a proven Super Bowl hero for Baltimore against the Niners. And so the Niners got him for a 6th-round pick. So I'm not saying they're going to get Trey Hendrickson for a 6th-round pick, but I'm just saying that if you see a Trey Hendrickson trade, it may be just one of those trades of like, hey, give us this. We're on the verge of cutting him. Instead of us cutting him, how about you give us this and we'll give him to you? And it won't be anything close to the kind of price tag that equates to his actual value. It will be a price tag that is more reflective of his market and the fact that he was about to be cut. So that is something to watch for sure. But the Niners are not a Max Crosby away. They're not really a Trey Hendrickson away. They really need to trade back in the draft, get more picks. And people are like, oh, your 10-person mock drafts don't make sense. Really? Really? This is a team that picked up Garrett Wallow, and Eric Kendricks late in the year and started them. This is a team that picked up Kazir White and made him active. I mean, this is a team that had such a lack of depth that they had to sign street free agents to play in playoff games. And you're telling me they didn't need a deep draft with 10 to 12 names in it? I I would say that's proof that they did. Anyway, so I kind of got to push back on the Lombardi thought here. I guess he thinks that the roster's really good and that as long as they get healthy, they're going to be fine. I don't look at it at that way at all. I look at it as they've got some good players, but this is the year they need to do some significant building. And if they don't do significant building, it could be rough. It could be rough. This is the building off season. All right, let's hit a couple of these supers. We got this one. Thank you, sir. He says the cheat rippers or the chest rippers. He says, appreciate you, Larry. Your videos with Grant are the only time I can stand him. Good work reining in his nonsense. Oh, come on. I don't know if I'm reining in anybody's nonsense, but yeah, Grant's a good guy. And does a very good show. We have this one from Dale. Larry, Bryce Lance, late round steal, 4.34, great hands. Yeah, he's a great athlete for sure. Yeah, he'd be interesting. I'd have to see more of his film, but I think the Niners are probably going to steer clear of him, but maybe not. I mean, it's a good family for sure. Good family. And we got this one from Dale. Says CMC is missing from your trade list. How do you trade a guy who's that much a part of what you do? And he's already been traded to get here. So I kind of feel like that he's probably going to the finish line. He just seems like they seem so wed to him. He seems so wed to them. Yeah, you're right. I mean, I would entertain any of the older players, including him, be dealt. But I don't think Kittle's dealable because of the injury situation. And I don't think CMC's dealable because of his role on the team. I think everybody else is definitely dealable. Warner, I'd like to see stick around. But when I saw that rumor the other day, it made me think, you know what? He's probably available as well. All right. So there you go. A couple thoughts. The other thing I wanted to share with you guys, we were talking before about, the wide receivers. I think the edge class is an interesting class to discuss as well before we get out of here. Because, there's talk about Max Crosby. Now he's a Raven. There was talk about Rashawn Gary. And I think Rashawn Gary is the guy that makes the most sense for the 49ers. And that one, there's a lot of different ways to look at it. But Rashawn Gary is a really good football player who is going to be, he's got 2 years left on his deal. He's got a big cap number and a big salary, over $20 million in 2026 and 2027. But the Packers may release him. And if they release him, I kind of think that Rashawn Gary might be the guy to go after. Just when you look at, he's 280 pounds. He can play the run set the edge on first and second down. He's dynamic off the edge. This guy's really a dynamic mover. I think his body's going to stay in one piece. I don't think Rashawn Gary has played his best football. And that would be really exciting if you could somehow get the best of Rashawn Gary. He's a really, really talented athlete who, was great at Michigan and just hasn't quite happened in the NFL for him. I mean, he's good, but he hasn't been great. He's been good. So that to me is the one guy to really take a look at. Hendrickson would be absolutely phenomenal. I just can't picture. It's not that I can't picture the Niners satisfying Cincinnati in a trade. I can't see the Niners having a cap that makes sense if they're paying Bosa and Hendrickson, combined nearly $70 million. I mean, I don't see how those numbers pan out. Let's talk a little bit about the edge rusher market for a second in the draft, because this is the class. And to me, it's a really interesting group. Arvell Reese is going to go super high, maybe 1, 2, or 3. Bailey's going to go super high. The big controversy in this draft leading into April is going to be the arm length of Ruben Bain. Ruben Bain is a great player from the Hurricanes, and he's 6'2", he's 270 pounds, but he has 30-inch arms. And there's never been a defensive lineman with 30-inch arms go in the first round of the draft. And yet he's a superstar. He's incredibly strong. His motor's unbelievable. He dominates. He's going to go in the first round. But he may not go as high as people think. He may wind up going in the mid to late first round, where he's definitely a top 5 kind of a player. And to me, this is Cassius Howell was the other short arm defensive end who was an awesome player for Texas A&M. And that's the question I would have is like, are the Niners going to potentially at 27, they could be staring right at Cassius Howell. If they were able to trade up in the first round and use Mac Jones as a way to get up, they might be able to get up high enough to get a Ruben Bain. Do you start your rebuild and your, kind of rebuild of your defense right there? I mean, Bain opposite Bosa would be spectacular. Absolutely spectacular. The Niners don't, I mentioned the Niners have 13 needs. Dave's talking about if they just get healthy, they're going to be fine and they'll be the biggest acquisition. I'm like, no way. That you not only do you have 13 needs, I didn't even mention the kicker. The kicker is, of those 13 needs, at least 3 of them have to be not just replacements, but actually great players, new foundation piece players. They have to be in that Fred Warner, George Kittle, CMC. They've got to be. They need 3 or 4 guys to be in their elite group of players. If they're going to turn this thing around, they don't just need 13 new players. They need 10 new players and 3 new stars. They need a couple stars. They got to hit. They haven't hit on a star in a long time. I mean, they've almost all these guys, their best players they've brought into the organization were either via trade or draft picks a long time ago. They need stars out of the draft right now. And Ruben Bain is a star. So if you could get up high enough in the first round by using Mac Jones maybe as bait for one of these teams, maybe will the Jets trade you? Would you trade Mac Jones and your 27th pick to the Jets if you could get their pick in the middle of the first round? Well, I don't know that I would, but if Ruben Bain falls to 16 or whatever, and he's sitting right there, yeah, I think I would, because Ruben Bain is a star, and you put Bain opposite Bosa, and now you got something. So, I mean, not that I don't like some of these other guys, T.J. Parker and Akeem Mesidor, that was Bain's tag team, teammate there at Miami. There's other guys. Gabe Yakis from Illinois is a tremendous prospect. I love him a lot. I mean, 6'4", 260, flies off the edge. Danny Dennis Sutton, R. Mason Thomas, Joshua Josephs from Tennessee. Keldrick Falk from Auburn. I mean, Malachi Lawrence from Central Florida. Zion Young. If the Niners go Romeo Doubs here, so that takes wide receiver as the primary need, maybe off the table. Then maybe at 27, I'm probably choosing between some of these defensive ends. I'm at 27, I'm probably choosing between Keldrick Falk from Auburn, who's, if he falls, I don't think he will, but he could. They're probably, Matt Barrows and Vic Tafer from The Athletic did dueling mock drafts the other day. They both took Cassius Howell from Texas A&M at 27 overall. So the Niners did reference that they're going to have some different body types up front. I think the addition of Raheem Morris means there's going to be more 5-man fronts. They may look for some smaller rushers and some different body types on their defensive line, and not be so rigid with, hey, we want our ends to be 270. We want our tackles to have this certain size and speed. It sounds like they're looking for pass rush in any way it comes. But when they're sitting there at 27, to me, the 2 pass rushers that all the mocks have available to them are Zion Young from Missouri and Malachi Lawrence from Central Florida. And, you know what? I don't know that you can go wrong with those two guys. Lawrence is electric off the edge. 6'4", 255. He's kind of a little taller version of Bryce Huff. He is flying two steps. Not a lot of counter moves, not a lot of great hand usage, more of a one speed and go, dip the shoulder, dip and rip and just get the quarterback. And this guy flies off the edge. It's really fun to watch. He's got real explosive traits. And then Zion Young is like junkyard dog, man. He's like a little bit of Alden Smith, a little bit of Charles Haley, 6'5", 6'6", 255, 250, something like 260, something like that. But just tough. That's the other thing. The Niners could use some real toughness on their D-line. They don't have a Charles Haley. Who's there? Chris Jones. Who's that guy that you're like, God, I'm uncomfortable standing around this guy because he's just violent. I mean, that's what you stand near Chris Jones. He's hostile. He's borderline hostile. Charles Haley, borderline hostile. You got to find that defensive front seven guy that's just like, you got to be kidding me. This guy is unbelievable. And you can feel, the vibes of the best defensive players, especially if they're dominant front seven guys. You could feel the vibe of a Warren Sapp back in the day. And they need that. They need a junkyard dog up front who's just like, yeah, he may run a little hot, and it gives Chris Kasarik and the defensive coordinator, gives Raheem Morris headaches sometimes, but man, this guy shows up on Sundays and kicks ass. And that's what Malachi Lawrence and Zion Young represent. So those two guys, I think would be phenomenal gets for the 49ers for sure. Wait a second. Do we have this one? What's this one? CMC. Oh, yeah, we got that. Anyway, that's going to do it for us. I'm going to go enjoy the rest of my Saturday. Maybe we'll do a little bike ride, enjoy some of this great weather. Starting on Monday, we'll have full reports. Of course, Monday is the 9th, and that's when things start in full. So Damon and I will stream at 9 a.m. I may even go live earlier on Monday morning. We'll have lots of videos, lots of content. This is the spot you want to be for free agency. We'll bring all of that to you. So don't miss a minute of the action. Starting on Monday, we'll have it all for you on the Krug Show. All right, couple thoughts before we get out of here. Thanks to Alomar Marina, Sacramento's favorite riverfront dining spot with a view. Alomar Marina voted best lunch spot. Bloody Marys, seafood, appetizers. It's dog-friendly. It's a cool spot floating right on the Sacramento River. Thanks to Alomar Marina, 5999 Garden Highway. Thanks to them. Thanks to them for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. Thanks to Novato Chevrolet. Go see my buddy David Corral at Novato Chevrolet. He will give you a screaming deal. Novato Chevrolet has been in that location for decades. The owner, Gus, is a tremendous guy. They have great service, great deals, great selection. As I said, go see David Corral. He's the man to go see. He will get you a steal of a deal. And make sure you tell him that Krug sent you. That's right. Go see my good friends there at Novato Chevrolet. And, of course, thanks to our great friends at Habbas Law. Habbas Law, if you haven't seen the Habbas Law commercials yet, they're really cool. Habbas, Omar and Tarek Habbas did commercials with Macklin Celebrini of the Sharks. And, I mean, they're just really, really good. Really good. Check them out. If you need a great attorney, 1-800-INJURED is the number. They will fight to make it right, thanks to Habbas Law. And, my dad was a lawyer. My brother's a judge. My sister's a lawyer. I mean, the difference between success and failure in life often comes down to, do you have the right attorney? Do you have the right representation? Did you pick the right attorney? Well, Habbas Law is the right attorney. So give them a call. 1-800-INJURED. Thanks to Habbas Law for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. And also thanks to Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles, 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove, California, along the Monterey Peninsula. Call Anthony Catania. He's at 831-521-5264. They're going to have a trade night on March 24th and 26th, where they're giving away one free pack of cards to kids under the age of 12. So check that out. Once again, Sharp Corners, Sports Cards and Collectibles, 205 Cypress Avenue, there in Pacific Grove, California. And thanks to all of you guys for supporting The Krug Show. And we're back. As I said, we may do a video tomorrow if something breaks. We may do video later on today if something breaks. But we'll definitely be here on Monday for a full breakdown of all of your NFL free agency, all the rumors, all the talk, all the scuttle, the trades, the signings. We'll have it all for you. And a lot of analysis along the way. Have a great weekend, everybody. Peace.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of.